Are you sick and tired of those same old genres? Romance, horror, biography, literature. Well, now genre can be so much more with Upton Sinclair's The Jungle. His innovating writing has opened up the container to new genres, such as social change. No more boring, restraining genres. Come learn about the limitless possibilities of genres. Caution, do not proceed onto genre before understanding rhetoric first. It may be hazardous to your learning process. A dictionary definition of genre is not sufficient to understand how to use the concept when writing for social change. Genre is not a set of rules or regulations that must be followed. Rather, genre is action that changes with time and situation. You have to understand that you control and you create the genre, depending on the context you are working with. The Jungle is an interesting example to use for genre. It seems to be an outright novel, but when analyzed further, it is also fieldwork, personal narrative, manifesto, and the list goes on. Sinclair had a new way of reaching a different audience with his intended goal, to write a novel. But did it reach the audience he wanted? Did he ultimately reach his goal? The answer is no. He wanted to bring attention to workers' rights, and that didn't happen. He wanted to speak to the common working man. And who got a hold of his book? Upper and middle class citizens who were horrified by the meat, not the conditions their neighbors were working in. But the fact that The Jungle brought such immense change to society should not be overlooked. He single-handedly changed the way a nation looked at sanitation and production of food. And because of his book, laws were made and the nation was changed. So what was The Jungle's genre? It is a long list, but ultimately it was a novel written for social change. Maybe Sinclair would have gotten his message to his intended audience if he had chosen to write in a different genre. Let's examine Jack London's brief review of The Jungle and his own call to social change. Unlike The Jungle, London's review falls more into the category of a manifesto. Manifestos are generally categorized as public declarations of one's own beliefs or attitudes, often using very passionate and arousing language, which makes the views and goals of the author blatantly obvious. The language and style of the manifesto allowed London to express exactly what his attitudes towards socialism were, and exactly what kind of response he expected from his audience. London's manifesto was printed in one of Chicago's premier socialist publications, and was read by fellow socialists who would find themselves more compelled to take up arms and fight for London's cause. To sum it up, the genre one chooses to write in will indeed have an effect on how their words are interpreted, as well as who the audience will be. A common consequence of writing, regardless of which genre it is that the piece of writing will lead to further works, in different and perhaps new genres. The Jungle resulted in the public questioning the conditions and methods that were being used in Chicago stockyards. As a consequence of Upton Sinclair's book, President Theodore Roosevelt sent 2 U.S. agents to investigate the assertions that were made about the Chicago stockyards. This action was a direct result from the negative attention that Sinclair brought to the packing industry. Upon sending these 2 men to the stockyards in 1906, an investigative report was written, known to the public as Conditions in Chicago Stockyards. The report went through each claim that was made in the book and provided factual evidence of what they saw upon investigation. They found that most, if not all, of the claims made in The Jungle were in fact true. These findings led to the next step in the cycle of genres, a piece of legislation. Later that year, as a result of the investigative report, the Wiley Act was published. The Act specifically stated what is and isn't appropriate in terms of food production.
It all starts with a single genre. With every new genre comes different ways of thinking, and as a response, more genres emerge. It's similar to the domino effect. There is an initial event, in this case a new genre, that causes another author to build off of those ideas, while also adding new ones. There is a chain reaction in which eventually what started off as one genre is now 5 other genres, then 10, then 30, and so on and so forth. The Jungle had an initial genre, which then inspired other authors to write about similar but new ideas. Those ideas then impacted people so much that laws were created. One idea may not be enough to create social change, but many ideas force people to listen and to eventually take action.